questions as well from you up here as well. But I would say this about Mourinho is that I think he was very adamant that he had adapted when he did his press conference when he was hired about speaking about and feels like that he can evolve on the fly. And when we ask him to evolve, what are we asking him to do? I think on more attacking, vibrant football. I think that's what we're asking him to do. And I think that, you know, that's going to be very difficult for him to do with this Spurs team while trying to figure out defensively the issues that they still have. So, you know, for me, that's what I'm watching. I don't believe that he's going to get calmer. I do believe that with Southampton game with the coach, well, he referred to him as being an idiot and said I was rude, but I was rude to an idiot. I don't think that's going to go away. And I think when you hire Jose Mourinho, you hire a man who raises expectations of everybody at the club because that's what he believes that he is there for, is to win. And it's very difficult for him to accept anything else. When you've got players who aren't capable of taking you to match those expectations, his patience gets thinner and thinner and thinner. You know, when he finished second in the league at Manchester United, he was screaming from the rooftops that this is one of my...
Play him in you know, every game, certainly. Yeah. Harry Winks, a young player that we thought was going to be, you know, a standout breakthrough campaign, was for much of this campaign, I thought, and then can't always get in the side now under Jose Mourinho.
Right.
So he's changing the dynamic of the team already. Will he be afforded the budget to continue that in the off-season? He's going to have to be, I think. Otherwise, if you're a Spurs fan, we've got a couple of Spurs fans here, I know. Anyone else? Any other Spurs? One up there.
Spurs fans,
all right, we've got 3 Spurs fans here.
Well, get up here and give us some questions as well.
3 Spurs fans. If I'm a Spurs fan, I'm angry, I'm upset, because this is a team 3 years ago I thought were on the cusp of greatness. We're going to start winning trophies. And the year that Leicester won, right, what a year that was, should have been your year. Right, it was an off year for United and for City. That was, sorry, I know, I'm preaching to the choir here, but something happened under Pochettino, and you've now lost one of the top 4 or 5 managers in world football. He's left. You're seeing some of your players take big steps back, players wanting to leave that club. What a missed opportunity. If you're a Spurs fan, the last few years have been, you've come close, you've grown, you're now a big club once again, a lovely new stadium, but my God, what happened? Where did it go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they should look back at that area with a lot of fun, though. You know, a lot of, like, where they came from.
Yeah, that Chelsea game was great late in the season, wasn't it?
Where they came from, you know, Pochettino took them over as a team that was aiming to get in the Europa League. And now they're a consistent Champions League team who had that amazing run to get to a Champions League final. And okay, it didn't get over the line, but winning is hard. Only one team can do that. And they still have a caliber of players that they can still attract to play a manager like Jose Mourinho. So they have elevated their, back to the pyramid discussion, they've elevated themselves up there further than they were before. But you're right, there is still an opportunity for them to push forward. Their team, by the way, Gazaniga in goal, and he's done exactly what people thought they would do. Ori at right back, Tanganga is making his debut, the 20-year-old. So here we go with the back 3. Tanganga, Alderweireld, and Davinson Sanchez. Danny Rose as a left wing back. Harry Winks, Christian Eriksen, Dele Alli, Lucas, and Son. So Tanganga is playing the role of Thomas Kalas, who played for Chelsea that one time against Liverpool. Remember that game when no one saw that coming? So we've got a surprise selection for Jose Mourinho again, which is what we always imagine. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. We got some questions, Sam?
Okay, yeah.
Hey guys, Nathan.
Hi Nathan. Thank you.
Nice to see you both back in action together.
Thank you.
Question for you, well, not lower. Only halfway through the season, but we've seen a lot of good performances from individuals. Who's your player of the year, young player of the year, and surprise player of the year? Or who's impressed you the most, who you wouldn't expect?
It's a great question. Player of the year, this is just Premier League discussion, right? Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Premier League player of the year, James. So, I mean, I think you can't go anywhere away from Liverpool.
No, I would say...
This comes down to your discussion about Liverpool and who would be your best player on that team this season.
Well, all right, Sadio Mane has been the standout attacking player.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. We knew he was good. What is he worth now, by the way?
Right.
He's one of the top 4 or 5 players in world football right now. He's wonderful. We know that. I mentioned before Jordan Henderson, right? And he should get some votes for player of the year. He's been dynamic. He's played in various positions in the midfield. People that thought he wasn't at that level have been proven wrong this year. I think you give Klopp a lot of credit for that, a great captain as well. But how can you really go beyond Virgil van Dijk? Once again, just dominating back there. I know they've given up a few more goals this year than perhaps last year, but still, he is the calming presence you talk about, is Virgil van Dijk. So as much as we want to celebrate the attack, and hey, I love attacking players with Sadio Mane, I would probably still go with Virgil.
Yeah, I'll throw another one out there that could win both, and that's Trent Alexander-Arnold, because if he doesn't win Young Player of the Year, then something's wrong. And
that award's ridiculous, by the way.
By the way, it's a ridiculous award, yeah, because of the
Rookie of the Year, okay.
The age. But I'll say this about Trent Alexander-Arnold: I have never seen an English player in my lifetime play as a profile of a player like him, and I haven't said this since Gascoigne. I think as an English player, he could be, may not be, one day could be the best player in the world. He's that good.
As a fullback or as a, will he move up the
Either
field?
way.
It doesn't matter. Fullbacks have changed, right?
Yeah. Either way, he's a dynamic playmaker from a fullback position. And when he's not playing, this team is very different. He's irreplaceable. So that is, by the definition of a very valuable player, is that
I think Nathaniel Klein might disagree.
There's nobody else like him right now in the Premier League, and nobody like him at Liverpool, that's for sure.
It's the delivery, right? The whip he gets in that ball. Every ball in is incredible.
It's the poise, the calmness, the technical ability, the passing ability, the delivery into the box. Defensively, I think he's got better. I spoke to Robbie Mustoe about this, a former Premier League player and the NBC analyst on my Sirius show, and I mentioned it about that, and he said he still felt like defensively he's got a lot of work to do, but I think that he's come along a lot this season defensively. And look, we know what it's like that when you think about the development of an English player and they're going up, and up. Sometimes some of them go like that, and sometimes some of them do this. And there's a lot of factors to that, lifestyle factors, media coverage. There's a lot of things that could go different ways. But I still think potentially he could keep going and going and going.
And he's got the right manager there as well. I know we discussed Klopp before, but here's a guy that will take him under his wing, will give him good advice, will protect him.
Yes.
Be it from the media or his lifestyle. This is a Scouse kid, right? He's from the area, which is so rare now as well, to get a player from the area of your club to be so successful. But yeah, I mean, there's no one else who's Young Player of the Year. There's no one in the conversation.
I can't think of anybody.
Really at that level, I don't think.
The other one I would say is, and I think the third question was most surprised, or the biggest, the one thing I'd throw out is someone like Tammy Abraham, who is, I have to say, I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that he's been given the amount of playing time, and I know there's not a lot of threat there, but you've still got someone like Olivier Giroud who's basically never been asked to play, or Michy Batshuayi, and never been, international caliber players. Mm-hmm. And Tammy Abraham is playing every week, and he's scoring double-digit goals, scored again today, and he's that penalty box reference point. And, one of the hardest things when you talk to people in the Premier League, particularly executives, when they get a player and they evaluate that player who's played in the Championship, how do you equate that to what they're going to do in the Premier League? It's really difficult. Yeah. And how many times have we seen players score in the Championship, like Abraham did last year for Villa on loan, and say, okay, yeah, he's going to score that amount of goals again in the Premier League or close to it. Rarely, if ever, does that happen.
I'm trying to think guys who we've touted.
And there's been so many, way back, Sylvan Ebanks, Blake, Charlie, there's so many of those players. Yeah. And then you think, but what he's done, he's taken these games to another level. He's been outstanding for Chelsea in Europe as well. And now, there's a lot of things that Chelsea could do in the next 18 to 24 months about buying a player, and they may say we want to go out and get a world star, and Abraham again his development might be stunted because of that. But right now, and if you're Frank Lampard and you're looking at that Chelsea team, I don't think you'd be thinking you could not have asked any more of that player.
Here's one for you. This past summer, Leicester sold Harry Maguire for around £85 million to United. Okay, whatever. He's been okay. He's a pretty good player. But Sonchu comes in at Leicester, and he has been absolutely dominating. He's been a wonderful player. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Decent player, but to replace Harry Maguire and be better than Harry Maguire, and you talk about a perfect combination beside Johnny Evans, who, again, we mentioned the word calm, but it's so important in this level of sport in general, having that calming presence. Johnny Evans does the dirty work, the grunt work, but he's calm, he's a communicator, and he's allowing this guy to make everyone at Leicester forget about Harry Maguire. And, if you're beyond Sheffield United, I'm not sure if there's a better story right now in the Prem than Leicester, and how they become not just a top 4 team, but a team that might be a perennial top 4 team.
Yeah, I mean, they've recruited superbly. They've had a lot of hits, but they've had a few misses as well. Slimani and Musa and those players. But
I forgot about Slimani.
Yeah, they've recruited really well, and it's continued. Soyuncu is just another example of their wonderful scouting system, and Tillemans is another example of that. You look at these players, and you wonder some of these players, if you're an Arsenal fan or a Manchester United fan, and you think, why didn't we get those players? And that's, if you can recruit, and that's where we're at right now. The revenue streams in the Premier League are so high that if you're a Leicester, if you're a Wolves, you can compete for these players and pay them so much money that if you turn that into success on the field, then you're going to really have to overpay to get those players to your club if you're United, which is what they had to do with Maguire, which they had to go against the grain and have the world's record bid for that player.
Not that Leicester is a selling club necessarily, but you're right. If the Uniteds of the world come in, it's very hard to ward them off.
Well, yeah.
But Leicester's coming to a point now, I think, though, if they can string together a few Champions League seasons behind them with that ownership, who's very aggressive, quite progressive as well, aggressive and progressive, it rhymes. Yeah. They can be a force going forward. And Brendan Rodgers, who unfairly has been a bit of a laughing stock over the years. People say he's the David Brent of professional football, from The Office, of course. I think that Liverpool documentary didn't do him any service whatsoever, but what a job he's done there. And they play in a fun brand of football. They're not just deep-lying Leicester anymore. And somehow, surprise players like Jamie Vardy. Listen, we know he's a good player. We understand that. So to say he's a surprise player is a stretch. But he's 32 and he's getting better. Yeah, incredible player. And does he get a call up? Does he reconsider his move to the England national team?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure if he will.
If Harry's hurt,
maybe. The one thing I'd say about Leicester is the same thing I would say about Wolves. Same thing I would say about Sheffield United. A lot of the keys to success at the top level of the game is continuity. And you play the same players every week for the most part in the same positions, and the success is there. Now, I know they made all those changes, and they made 10 changes, and they still went to West Ham and 9 changes and won the game. But predominantly, every week, you know who's playing for that team. The relationships are continue to blossom. And, it's a good question, and hopefully those answers have been helpful for you. Thanks a lot, Nathan. Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
Hey guys, I'm Marco.
Hey Marco.
Just had a question about, we saw West Ham versus Sheffield yesterday. The handball rule came into effect again.
VAR.
Just wondering your thoughts about the handball rule in VAR.
Okay, so firstly, I hate VAR.
We did well to get through. How many minutes without talking
about
it?
Not bad, thanks Marco. Yeah. Appreciate this.
No, we had to bring it up.
You did. Here's my thought. So the rule changed this year, right? In that, intentional is irrelevant. All right, so VAR did its job in that case, I suppose. But to me, what VAR doesn't do is take into account the speed of the game. How the hell he was supposed to get his arm out of the way, I don't know in that situation. And we want to encourage attacking football. That doesn't allow it. So I thought, it's one of those things, by the letter of the law, it was a handball, but it was still harsh.
Actually, technically it was, but it also wasn't, because the letter of the law speaks about deflections, and the referees didn't follow through with it properly.
Right.
Because it was a deflection, in my opinion. Now, maybe they looked at it and thought it wasn't a deflection.
But his arm was in a natural position as a silhouette.
The ball deflected from an opponent onto his arm, which technically isn't a handball. So
is that outside the box as well as inside the box?
I believe so.
I thought that was just, I could be wrong.
My take on VAR is that I like VAR. I think it's here to stay anyway, so get used to it. It's not going away. For me, there's a significant problem in the laws of the game and the way that things are written that they have to live by at the moment. They're almost a passenger or a slave to the law, and the laws need to be changed. IFAB's having a meeting at the end of February to change some of these things, hopefully. So hopefully by the end of it, we all come through this very dark, deep tunnel that we're in right now, and there's sunshine and roses, and at the end of the day, we go, yeah, it's better for the game because it forced the laws of the game to be changed. Because right now, players and fans are neither side are happy with it. The emotion of the game about when you cheer and you go crazy for a goal and then you see it denied is so deflating for the energy of the game that it's a very difficult watch. But I would say that I do believe that they don't care about that. They're looking for accuracy. I know, working with MLS clubs and speaking to Howard Webb, that they believe there's a different way to go about it. This drawing lines on an offside and getting people offside because their toenail's bigger than the other toenail is extremely infuriating.
It's the rules that are subjective, right? And VAR is not subjective. That's the issue, I think, in many of these cases, right?
I just don't like the offside thing because, and I've had people just talk to me in person about this, officials, but I just don't know how you can be that accurate on that side and not be that accurate about when do you declare it to be a pass? When is it leaving the ball, leaving your foot? And the moment you make that motion is
it the contact or as it leaves the boot?
It's when you make that motion, and so it's a difficult one. But it's a difficult time right now for the game. But hopefully we come through it better.
What's frustrating to me, KJ, though, with VAR is this. So you ask fans of the Bundesliga or MLS. Where it was introduced a few years ago now. Right? The first couple of years were disasters, but they evolved, they learned, they changed it up, right? And it's still not great, but it's working better, I think, in those leagues than perhaps in the Premier League. But the Premier League come aboard and say, we're doing it our way. We're going to figure it out and do it in our terms. It's the arrogance, I think, of the Premier League, right? And I think they are...
Like going to the monitor and things, you mean? Is
that
what you
as
mean?
an example, sure. Yeah, that'd be one of them, yeah. And I mean, they are allowed to go to the monitor, but they just don't do it. Who will be that first man to do it?
Yeah.
To me, I mean, I did accept it for a while there, begrudgingly, because, like I said, it's going nowhere, like nuclear weapons. Only it's far more harmful than nuclear weapons. And I think the old man in me, the curmudgeon, has gone past that. I just don't like it. I know it's going nowhere, but I don't like it. I think it's ruining the integrity of the game, the pace of the game. It's ruining the emotion of the game. And as Declan Rice said, no one likes it.
No. Thank you for your question.
Matthew, just quickly, Canadian national team camp in California. Every game is a qualifier. How are we looking against Iceland?
Yeah, great question. It's been an encouraging camp so far for Canada out in California. I had that Tuesday, so I'm going to speak to some of the guys out there as well. They have beaten, Barbados last 2 games. Obviously conceded a goal in both. But it's great to see so many young players get an opportunity, James. The young players who come through, not only some Canadian teams with MLS, but through Canadian Premier League. And that's the success that we need to look forward to. That's the pathway. And they get an opportunity to put that Canada shirt on there and go represent them, Canada. And obviously we know why they're there. We're trying to get vital points to catch El Salvador and trying to get into that hex. But Iceland will be an interesting one. Obviously they don't have a lot of their European-based players as well, but they've got a lot on the line as well. They're in the playoffs to make Euro 2020, as you know. So this is, I just love the fact that this is going on right now. This is a really quiet time for international football, and it's obviously the chance to get these Canadian players. And I'm sure you've seen some of the goals and some of the streams last night. The way Osorio set up a goal and playing in that number 10 role in that 4-2-2-2 formation.
Captain too, wasn't he, last night?
Yeah, he's been captain, and Piet's been captain. This is just the next stage for these players to become big parts of Canada football.
And I think seeing Didic scored yesterday as well, a CPL player, right, for Edmonton. I mean, that's a big moment, I think, for the CPL.
Of course.
Who are just coming off their inaugural season. We have to have a domestic league and a successful domestic league, and it has to be a pathway to the national team. So seeing John Herman taking these important games, like I say, KJ, I know it's Barbados in the States, but it's an important game. Is he trying to catch El Salvador, which may or may not happen, probably won't. But to see these guys get an opportunity to play and prove their worth and score, I think is a great back pat for the CPL and for grassroots Canadian soccer. We are slowly getting there, and we're seeing that in this, like I said, what's usually a very quiet time internationally, not here in Canada.
Yeah, and I think it's just continued to move the needle. I think we're always talking here in Canada about the development of the game. You and I have been fortunate to be involved in it for so long now, and we could talk about the development of the game. You can see how many people are going in to watch these games all around Canada today, the live Premier League games. I think, James, the next step for the Canadian men's team is to get people who are here in Canada watching Liverpool or Tottenham and being big fans of them to equate to being linked to the Canada men's national team, which I don't think has always been the case. They may be from a different country by birth or their parents, and they may be massive fans of that team, and they're really excited about the Euros this summer, but doesn't really get their juices flowing with Canada because they haven't really been given enough knowledge about it, haven't seen enough about it. How do you do that? Winning games.
It's all about winning. Yeah.
It's about winning games and also getting players that who play for other teams and seeing them play there, and then that gets your radar as well, because there's a lot going on out there for people to be able to take their attention elsewhere.
I think a lot's on the CSA shoulders there as well to promote these players, to get these guys out there.
Yes.
It's so important. Quite frankly, for many years, the CSA did a piss poor job promoting their players. Many reasons, actually. But now you've got legitimate players who could be superstars. Alphonso Davies scored this morning, by the way. It's an exhibition game in the German winter break, but he scored a goal. He was Bayern's Player of the Month for December.
Yeah.
And this is a kid who legitimately could be a superstar, and he's ours. So you've got to get this guy out. you guys are all football fans. You know these players. I'm not educating you fellas and girls, but there's people out there who don't know much about soccer who could be lured into our dark, dark world. And we have to do that, and the CSA have to
Come on in, there's plenty of room for you.
There's plenty of room, trust me.
Yeah.
But,
and so of course, towards 2026.
At 2026, exactly.
When everybody will be watching, and everybody will be interested by then, right? So,
only because it's on TSN and you're going to be involved.
Well, you might be involved too. You never know. So
They
anyway,
can't afford me.
we're like 5 minutes away from kickoff, so should we wrap this up and then we'll do some prizes and get some chat at halftime as well. Thanks to everybody on the live stream, and thanks for everyone for your questions. And we'll enjoy the game. We'll chat at halftime.
Cheers.
Thank you.